is Scott Mitchell. I'm with Savage Americas, and I'm co-chair along with Bob Davis, who actually had to attend another session. Our first talk of the morning is triglyceride transesterification using solid-phase catalyst. It comes to us from Clemson University, and speaking will be Edgar Lotero.
Thank you. So yes, today I'll be telling you a little sample of the work we are really carrying out in Clemson regarding the research of biodiesel forming reactions in solid acids. Let me start by saying that triglyceride transesterification is a key reaction nowadays because it is the central reaction in the synthesis of biodiesel. Oh, this isn't working. Right. So, just to make things faster, triglyceride is a three ester of glycerol with three acid moieties where the alkyl change can be either saturated or unsaturated. The reaction takes place with low molecular alcohol like methanol, ethanol, propanol, butane. And it requires a catalyst that can be homogeneous catalyst or nowadays heterogeneous catalyst. The catalyst can be base or it can be acid. In the homogeneous case, you use this NaOH, sodium methoxide, potassium methoxide, and sulfuric acid for esterification. But, well, mostly for esterification, but it can be used also for transesterification. There are different solid bases and acids right now that people are trying. The reaction is more than that, actually. You have a triglyceride species, and then that triglyceride species goes to a diglyceride species, which then subsequently goes to a monoglyceride, and then the monoglyceride goes to glycerol. And all, you have a reaction that requires 3 moles of the alcohol per every mole of the triglyceride you use to produce 1 mole of the glycerol byproduct and 3 moles of the ester, basically. And you are interested in this mainly, but nowadays it's really important to get this clean also so you can do things with it. Okay, so when you're thinking about catalysts, solid catalysts for this reaction, one has to look at the most likely mechanism. And since little studies have been done in this field, we are going to assume that the mechanism for solid bases probably is parallel to the mechanism and when you're using a liquid base. I won't describe the whole mechanism, but something that you have to notice here in this example, I use NaOH because I want to illustrate any catalyst, any solid base that you're thinking about using for this reaction has to be able to produce these species right there. In this case, using methanol, it will be the methoxide ion. Because this species actually is the one that gives place or initiates basically the reaction by the nucleophilic attack on the carbon here on the triglyceride. And then the reaction goes and, it happens in the glyceride and the glycerides and so on. So any solid catalyst has to be able to produce these species also to be efficient for this reaction. Now, not every solid catalyst, every solid base that is able to produce these species is suitable for transesterification. And let me explain that with an example. A couple of years ago, we did this little study using the transesterification of this model compound for triglycerides, a triacetin that has the same functionality as a triglyceride. So we wanted to see only if the catalyst was able to carry out transesterification of this molecule, and probably will be able to carry out transesterification of larger molecules. So we used this model compound to make a first tryout. The catalyst we used in that time was this ETS10 catalyst, is titran silicate, the zeolite-like catalyst basically. And SUPS had reported in Missouri at the time, had reported that this catalyst has great activity for the meta-analysis of soybean oil. So we wanted to try this catalyst and understand how the catalyst worked using this model reaction, using the transesterification of triacetin with methanol. We tried both the base form of ETS10 and we tried the acid form of ETS10. And at the beginning, it was no surprise that the base form has a huge activity compared to the acid form. But then we try also zeolite that is known for its acidic properties, H-beta. And we found that the activity of this cell and the ETS10, they had parallel activity. That is surprising, because everybody knows that the acidity of this cell is much higher than the acidity of this other cell. So the conclusion of the study was that even though triacetin, this small molecule, was able to enter the pores of this titanosilicate, the reaction really wasn't happening inside the pores. But in order to understand that better, we did some deactivation studies on these catalysts, and what we found is that even though the first cycle of the reaction is great, when you make an activity plot, basically to normalize the activity to the initial rate, at the first cycle. So you make an activity plot and you find out that you're losing 80% of the activity after the first cycle. If you make elemental analysis on the different materials you're having, you notice that the ions are leaching basically out of the catalyst with the different reaction cycles. And let me explain that in every reaction cycle, you take the catalyst, you centrifuge the catalyst out, and then you use the catalyst in a new cycle with fresh reagents. So anyways, this is leaching, so the only way it can be leaching is if the methanol comes to the side, reacts with the catalytic side, then you get sodium methoxide, and then the sodium methoxide is going to the liquid phase. And what you're really having, in this case, is homogeneous catalysis, no heterogeneous catalysis. So basically, after a few reaction cycles, probably after the first reaction cycle, the catalyst is dead. So this catalyst is not suitable for this reaction. You're thinking long term. So that's the main conclusion of that study. So we said, okay, obviously not all heterogeneous catalysts are good for this reaction. ETS10, I already showed you, is able to leach. So a Lewis base like ETS10 leaches the catalytic sites, no good. The other Lewis base that are in, ionic like this one, well, they are ionic at some extension, but they seem to not to leach at low temperature release, are MgO and calcine hydrocalcides. And these catalysts, there may be different mechanisms for this to happen, but the most straightforward mechanism is if you have the active species on this catalyst taking a proton from the alcohol, forming an alkoxide, and then this alkoxide will be able to carry out the reaction, and it won't leach because you always will have this corner ion attached to the surface. So you're thinking about designing catalyst, you have to make sure this happens, that the corner ion stays back, so this species won't leach and you will have a reusable catalyst. Now, this was one possibility. However, there are reports that MgO and calcine hydrocalcides are ready, and we have done some work on this. The activity isn't pretty good because of the microporosity of this material. So, yeah, they may have a future, but they need to be improved. The other type of catalyst that so far, well, I don't want to say nobody has considered, but few people think about, is this catalyst with Bronsted-based functionality. And one of these catalysts, for instance, the sample that I have for you today, are catalysts with heterogenized quaternary ammonium ions. And then in this catalyst, the hydroxide function, that's why it's called Bronsted, by the way, the hydroxide function takes the proton, and then you form this species. And the idea is that this species will be able to carry out the reaction the same way a homogeneous catalyst does. So that was the initial idea of these materials, the initial question we had. So we wanted to know if this type of catalyst will be good enough for triglyceride transesterification, because it's been reported that the basicity of this catalyst is a little bit lower than the basicity of other known catalysts, for certain the homogeneous catalysts. So nevertheless, we said, well, let's go for it. And something that I had to say before I continue is that, in this case, look, you're forming water when you do this reaction. You don't want water in this presence in this media, because any molecule of water can give you a molecule of carboxylic acid, and that carboxylic acid can neutralize your site. So you don't want water here. So the first step when using this catalyst is you have to wash this catalyst thoroughly with alcohol. So you convert everything to this and you wash out the water. That's the first step, and that's what we did. The two catalysts we used for this study are an organic-based catalyst, a resin-based catalyst from Ronan Haas, 826. It has a polyestyrene-based matrix, organic matrix, and then basically has hanging, in this case, organic ammonium ions. And the other catalyst is a silica-based catalyst in which these species are supported on silica. And so we went for these two catalysts. They are similar in many respects, but they are different at the same time. So we wanted to know how the two catalysts behave for this type of reaction using triacetin as a model compound for triglycerides. The experimental setup is basically batch reactions in this case. And the samples were analyzed using GC, where you can measure how the reagents are consumed and how products are formed and intermediates are formed and consumed. So very simple. So the catalytic activity, when you measure the triacetin conversion versus time for the two catalysts, you find that both catalysts have very similar activity. I mean, the activity is pretty good, by the way, given the low concentration of catalysts that we use. However, we didn't expect that the two catalysts follow parallel reaction profiles. It shouldn't be, because if you look at the site density for the two catalysts, the resin has a really high acid base density for these materials, while the silica-based catalyst has a lower density. So you would expect that the resin will be better, basically, than the silica-based catalyst. It wasn't the case. When you measure the turnover frequency using the site density for these two catalysts, what you find is that the turnover frequency for the silica-based catalyst is about 5 times better than the turnover frequency for the 8.6. And this data is a little bit misleading, though, I have to say, because you're assuming that all the sites in the resin are exposed for reaction. That may be not the case. Some sites are in the bulk, and probably those sites in the bulk weren't exposed for reaction, and then that's why the difference in turnover frequency. That may be one explanation. There is another explanation that I have for you a little bit later in this presentation. The selectivity, and this is a very interesting parameter for this reaction. When you measure glycerol selectivity, and glycerol selectivity is really important, because you want this reaction to go from triglycerides to glycerol. You want everything converted to esters and glycerol. Having monoglycerides and glyceride is not good. I mean, you're losing productivity, you're having separation problems, so you want this glycerol selectivity to be the highest. So we use a given point in the conversion, and we measure the glycerol selectivity for 3 catalysts, the 826, the silica-based catalyst, and homogeneous catalyst. Though I have to say that is unfair, because the homogeneous catalyst is done like in 30 seconds. You have almost 100% conversion. But nevertheless, just for academic purposes, we did a comparison, and you find that the resin indeed has the best glycerol selectivity. And the silica-based catalysts and NaOH, they have, at this conversion, they have very similar selectivities in terms of monoglyceride, diglycerides, and glycerol. And when we did this, we remember that we have seen this before. When we studied the triacetin transesterification using acid catalysts with methanol, we saw the same pattern, the same trend. The Amberlist 15 that has basically the same matrix, organic matrix as Amberlist 26. These catalysts also, when compared to sulfuric zirconia and sulfuric acid for the same reaction, the catalyst shows more or less the same pattern in selectivity. Glycerol selectivity was huge for the Amberlist 15, while monoglyceride and diglyceride selectivity and glycerol selectivity was similar for sulfuric zirconia and sulfuric acid. So it seems that the selectivity has nothing to do with the type of catalyst that we have, with the type of sites that we have. It has to do probably with the environment around those sites. So we propose a very simple idea. Probably this is what is taking place. There are other possibilities for this, but this is the idea we like. When you have a species like a monoglyceride, for instance, and you have a surface where you have groups that can form hydrogen bonds with those hydroxy groups on the monoglyceride, probably the most preferred orientation of the molecule is one in which the hydroxy groups in the monoglyceride forms hydrogen bonds or interact heavily with the silica support. Then the nucleophilic attack of this species to the carbon here will be basically difficult. While you don't have that problem in the resin you don't have that interaction, so this type of orientation is facilitated on the resin catalyst. Therefore, the nucleophilic attack will be easy. And again, that is one possibility, and that is the possibility we're sticking to right now. But there may be other possibilities to explain the selectivity of glycerol in this catalyst. When you study the catalytic activation of this material, and this is really interesting, for the resin catalyst, with an experimental error. If you do cycling experiments in which you recycle the catalyst after every cycle and then use fresh reagents, and you do this 4 hours every cycle, so total will be 16 hours. With an experimental error, you find that the catalyst basically maintains the activity. It doesn't deactivate as well. So that's good news. For the silica-based catalyst, however, it's a different scenario. In the silica-based catalyst, you see the catalyst deactivates with every reaction cycle that you apply. In order to understand what is going on with these catalysts in terms of deactivation, we did some NMR experiments in which we put the resin and we put the silica catalyst in contact with the alcohol, methanol, overnight. And then basically what we did is we take NMR just to see what organic species were leaching from this catalyst. What we found is that the silica catalyst is leaching this amine, trimethylamine. And that would explain why the catalyst is being deactivated, because since you separate the liquid phase after every cycle, you're taking some of the size out. When you use, for instance, the alcohol that you use for this leaching experiment, you use it by itself in a reaction with triacetyl, you see that there is activity for that alcohol, confirming that you have species that are active for transesterification. So yeah, there was leaching. For the resin, we didn't see the signal, and we didn't see any activity for the alcohol used in the leaching experiment for the resin. So the resin doesn't seem to be basically leaching under these conditions. The silica is though. Why the activation? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, so the Holtman elimination will explain this. It's a classical reaction, well-known reaction. Basically, in this reaction, the alkyl side takes the beta proton from this alkyl change, and then you form basically an unsaturated species and the trimethylamine. So, okay, so the Holtman elimination explains this. However, I had to say that, well, before I go there, I had to say that for the resin, this doesn't happen because the resin doesn't have this beta proton. You see, so okay, this is like a reasonable explanation for this. So we went and tried the silica material with the same kind of functionality, and it also deactivated. So this doesn't explain why we're having deactivation in the silica, because in fact I didn't bring the data here, but the deactivation for this material is even worse. It loses 80% of the activity after the first cycle. So this is pointing out probably the alpha carbon. The alpha carbon in these materials is more susceptible to nucleophilic attacks. So one might say, okay, so probably the route for the activation is an attack, a nucleophilic attack of the base to the alpha carbon. So if that's the case, then we get basically the leaching of the amine, and we get this species on the surface of the silica. So the question will be, why it didn't happen to the resin? Because we didn't see it for the resin. So we didn't like this explanation as much. The other possibility is, if there is some sort of intermediate, so the species, the basic species, is able to exchange or basically interact with the silanol groups on the silica, and then you get these very strong base sites that are able to attack then the alpha carbon and then produce this type of species and leach the amine. So this is another possibility that needs to be explored further, because we actually didn't go beyond this. We just proposed that probably this is a route that needs to be researched in the future, but we didn't go beyond this one. Now, the good news, or basically not good news so far, but basically we tried, because you want to know if this works for larger triglycerides, isn't it? I mean, that is a question that comes to mind. So triacetyl will be a molecule with one methyl group, so something like this. So we said, let's go for a larger molecule compound, like tricapryl, with 8 carbons. So in the same molecule, but instead of having 2 carbons in the acid moiety, it has 8 carbons in the acid moiety. So the molecule is about 3 to 4 times bigger than the triacetyl molecule. We tried the transesterification of this molecule with methanol, and what you find is that the activity drops by a lot when you try the larger triglyceride for this reaction. You lose almost 20 times the activity that you saw for the triglyceride, the small triglyceride. So what is happening here? There are some deactivation processes. We believe that the problem is that, this resin 826 has a macroreticular structure in the sense that it has macropores, but most of the sites for sure are on the macropores. Most of the sites probably are in the micropores of the resin. those micropores require swelling to be exposed for reaction. So we believe that the way the triglyceride molecule absorbs on the polymeric matrix of the resin is inhibiting basically the access of methanol molecules to these small pores, and then most of the sites basically are really working for this reaction when you see you use the larger triglycerides. So that is the bad news for this catalyst. The good news is that when those sites that are exposed for reaction seem to be stable at 60 Celsius. So yeah, the activation wasn't observed by us basically for this resin using the larger triglyceride. In conclusion, basically we were able to prove that this chemical functionality, having this Bronsted type bases, you can have triglyceride transesterification with this functionality. The A26 material is able to have sustained activity for several reaction cycles. So at 60 Celsius at least, it seems that the activity is if you use enough catalyst, it could be good enough. The silica-based catalyst basically leach, so improvements needs to be done for that catalyst in order to be used. I had to mention that we tried to silate the hydroxyl groups or the silanol groups on the silicon, and it was of no good. We couldn't silate these groups. The vendor of the silica said that it's because you had basically a strong hydrogen bonds, and that makes difficult the silation of this. Anyways, whatever the reason was, we weren't able to silate and prove that the activation mechanism was through the silanol groups. And the resin-based catalysts, they need improvements if you want to use this resin-based catalyst for this reaction. So that's for sure. And I believe there are ways to do it. It's just that probably a more specialized industry in this resin has to take over on that challenge. And you want to see some of the results that I showed you, the paper just went public a month ago. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Paper's now open for discussion. Any questions? I have a question for you. You postulated that with your resin catalyst, you probably weren't having a total 100% effectiveness factor. There were probably some parts of the interior of the resin that weren't being accessed. Did you have an opportunity to grind the material and go back and check that?
Actually, we use a grind material.
Okay, so you couldn't size it any further down?
No, it's really difficult. These things are, no, it's not like a powder, inorganic solid. Yeah, we already use it.
Did you notice swelling of the material with time on stream?
No, right. Didn't notice. Do you have a question?
Yeah, is the main reason to consider the solid catalyst for the separation? Or
the main reason for solid catalyst, there is a big issue about that, because if you use a homogeneous catalyst, most of the catalyst will stay in the glycerol phase after separation. You still have to make some water wash people use for these applications in biodiesel synthesis. And then the issue is being able to clean up the glycerol, because right now people are saying that to improve the economics of biodiesel production, you need to have a clean glycerol. Well, it's really difficult to clean up the glycerol from base catalyst residues and from other chromophores that are formed with reaction. So yeah, one of the big issues is if you have a solid catalyst, you don't need to do any cleanup because, you separate it by filtration and the reactor, so it shouldn't be a problem.
how about with respect to selectivity?
As I was showing you, the selectivity seems to be good if you have the right support. And
What I'm asking, is there any improvement in the selectivity going from the liquid base to the solid base? Or
yeah,
is
so
selectivity?
Usually you want to have, what people do is, in order to improve the selectivity, sometimes they have even two reactions. So they go on one cycle with the base catalyst, and then after one cycle, they separate glycerol and they do a second cycle to improve the selectivity towards, the biodiesel glycerol. So that's something that people do in the industry. But I assume with solid catalyst, it should be for inorganic catalyst, basically, that I didn't show today. And it should be the same issue. So you just have the reaction going, long enough to reach the selectivity you want. But you use catalysts with, I guess, and this is my guess because we haven't proved this yet, I have to say. You use catalysts with hydrophobic surfaces around the sites. For some reason, the selectivity goes really high for glycerin, and that's what you want. So another way to control selectivity probably is improving the hydrophobicity of the surface. And this is something we are right now studying, if this is true or not, but that's my guess. That's my biggest selectivity result.
Brendan?
Yeah, you touched on the issue of purification of glycerol, and certainly at the meeting there's a number of papers dealing with what we do with this product that's a byproduct that's 10% of production. You mentioned some of the issues around clarification and purification of that. Do you see some of the typical impurities that you see with the Amberley system not appearing with your silicon?
The glycerol you get is clear, completely clear. I mean, it's like for the resin catalyst, because the silica is a different thing. But for the resin catalyst, yeah, you see a pure glycerol. And it shouldn't have anything else. When you think about it, the catalyst was washed with the alcohol previous to the reaction, so the catalyst is completely clean. So we didn't see any leaching from the resin. So what you get for the triacetyl product, you get basically a clear product, completely clear. You don't see any impurities, any chromophores, nothing like that. So it seems, and my guess is, again, this is my guess, is that these bases are weaker than the homogeneous bases. And chromophores probably are formed because of site reactions with the very strong base. In this case, we didn't see them. So probably having a weaker base, a little bit by an action, is also beneficial.
Thank you. Let's thank our speakers.